Good morning. And there's a story which I was going to relate last night, and I just thought, oh gosh, it's too grim. So I'm going to do it first thing this morning. So be warned. There's a question in philosophy which says, do you do something because it's right, or do you do something because you are commanded to do something? If you reverse that, do you avoid doing something because it's wrong, or do you avoid it because you've been told not to do it? And it's an interesting question about moral behavior. And when you come to the just war theory, now the just war theory for the most part is not embraced in the Orthodox Church, but it was taken up by Patriarch Kirill in Russia in the earlier part of this century, and many people questioned what he was doing, but nevertheless he did it. So I think Russia can be challenged on the principles of the just war theory from that point of view. And in the just war theory there is a principle of malum in se, and more specifically, putting that into practice, you don't send your prisoners of war back to fight their own people. That would be malum in se. And it's a heinous moral atrocity. You don't send your prisoners of war. You don't persuade them, cajole them, force them to fight their own people. And that's exactly what is apparently happening. And more than that, it's happening from the Olenivka prison. And the Olenivka prison is something we know quite a lot about. In July 2022, the Azov battalion were imprisoned there, and they were persuaded to go into the exercise yard where a bomb went off and killed them. And Russia blamed a missile from Ukraine. Ukraine said that wasn't something that they had sent, and the matter sort of disappeared from the international press. But I would say, cui bono? Who benefits from that bomb? Not Ukraine. So, and now we hear it's the same prison which is perpetrating an even more shocking war crime. It's a war crime, there's no question about this. And Russia is sending Ukrainian prisoners of war to the front lines of their homeland to fight Moscow's side in the war. And it's not some strange little telegram channel which is telling us this. It's the Russian state news agency which is telling us this. It is simply shocking. Simply shocking. Now, it turned up yesterday in the international news, but in fact this is a story which was touted by Polish news channels in July, and the Ukrainian Human Rights Watch is also aware of this. Yulia Gorbunova has said Russian authorities might claim that they're recruiting them on a voluntary basis, but it's hard to imagine a scenario where a prisoner of war's decision could be taken truly voluntarily, given the situation of coercive custody. Nick Reynolds of the Land Warfare at the Royal United Services Institute in London says the entire scenario is laced with the potential for coercion. A prisoner of war doesn't have a lot of agency and is in a very difficult position. There is video which shows Ukrainians swearing allegiance to Russia, holding rifles, dressed in military uniforms, to fight in a battalion named after Bogdan Khmelnytsky, who is a Russian hero who captured parts of Ukraine for Moscow in the 15th century. So they are volunteering for this battalion, and they are bolstering the Russian forces in Ukraine as part of this conscription campaign, and by mobilizing Ukrainian prisoners of war, deploying Russian convicts, conscripting Ukrainians who live in the occupied areas. Russia is therefore increasing its combat force without having to risk the social implications of conducting a general mobilization, which of course would be resisted because Russians don't want to fight in this war that their leader has engineered for his own electoral benefits, and it's gone wrong, and he may be dead. And the other story is not only that Putin died a month ago, and that there was a quiet alcohol-fueled wake, but that his main doppelganger now has COVID, so we're unlikely to be seeing him for a while. So it's now the other two doppelgangers who might appear or might not appear, but who knows? Who knows whether any of those stories are true, of course. But it is fascinating that these stories are no longer being dismissed as farcical. The Dmitry Peskov is actually going out and specifically denying them, giving them credibility by giving them airtime. There we are. But this prisoner of war thing is a serious and shocking moral issue. It's a moral issue. It goes beyond a political issue or a legal issue. This is a moral issue, and it is an obscenity. And I, for one, I'm not terribly surprised by it, but I am of course shocked and dismayed by this this hideous turnaround.